meeting to order to discuss the negotiations between WIA and the Williston School Board number 7. Do a quick roll call.
Chris John. Jeff Thompson.
Corey Swint.
Amanda Mull,
Jeff Winslow.
Cindy Glavin.
All right. We haven't had a chance to review minutes from last week.
Understood. And I think there were 2 weeks of minutes or whatever. Yeah.
Jay, so when we get a chance to look at those, we'll do that. We left off last week looking at 6% salary proposal from WIA. Last week, we looked at a 0.5% proposal from the board last week. We're gonna quick handout. This is our pathway forward from WIA. We want to quick look at our proposals real quick, and then we're gonna jump right into our salary proposal if you don't mind. So going right to WIA proposal number 3, which is prep time. We have withdrawn that proposal. We have proposal number 4 still open, which is the extra duty pay schedule, co-curricular and extracurriculars. We have proposal number 6 and 7 that goes back to the one that we merged a couple weeks ago. That's still open, and look forward to discussing that with you all. We have proposal number 8 is withdrawn. We have proposal number 9 withdrawn. We have proposal number 10 is withdrawn. We have proposal number 11 is withdrawn. We have proposal number 12 is withdrawn. And we have proposal number 13 is withdrawn. That brings us to our next salary proposal. So with much work of many folks over the course of the week, our current salary proposal to the board is this. We're going with a 0.5% base increase. We're looking at 3.186% increase from previous year's salary in the same column. Last step in each column is slightly less than 3.186% for those that are maxed out and staying in that same cell. Year 2 would be a 0.5% base increase, $500 added in all steps, 12 through 22. The numbers that we're using to facilitate these numbers is from the CPI inflation calculation from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics. We went back to look at from when we signed our last deal to today. We've used that inflation number. It came out to about 4.5%, factoring in a few other details, PFFR and the different things. We were able to get it to 3.186%, and that is how we came to our.
Question on the year 2 matrix one. The 0.5% increase, that would be taking the year 1 and increasing each cell by the 0.5%. Adding 500 to steps 12 through 22 is done. Great. Yep.
Good work.
Looking from that. with the base changing or proposed to be changing both years, tying that back to proposal 4 of yours on the extracurriculars. Are you proposing then to keep the student council in the yearbook at the current percentage there?
Yes. What did we have, new council in your book at?
I think student council about 6.3 currently, and yearbook at 4.5.
And the student council proposal was 9, and 6.3. Is that right?
If the base wasn't changing, that was my understanding, yes. So if the base ultimately changes, your guys' proposal is to stay at the 6.3 and the 4.5. Then that. Correctly?
Yes, if the base
Yeah, the
changes.
base change.
So is this a package proposal, on what you did for government doing, or is this?
As far as what, year 1, year 2?
Yeah, I mean, what you presented here.
Currently it's as is, but we await your input.
If we could maybe just, we've talked on this a couple of different times, but. I'd like to just make sure I'm seeing exactly where you're at on our proposal number 10. On what items. Remain.
Sure.
That would be possible.
Agree to. All right. What do you want to know with that?
I just want to make sure, we've talked through this one a couple of times, and there's a number of things that, we've talked about how you're in agreement with.
Yep.
I just want to make sure, what are the provisions for changes in board proposal number 10 that you've not agreed with, or you have an issue with? My recollection is, you brought up, well,
Right?
We haven't narrowed or defined sub pay yet that we've all agreed on anyway, and
Separate.
the G part with the multi-grade classroom, and then that last line. We were fine with subsecretary being taken out of that.
Ms. Mo, what was the first thing you said before part G and the last line?
The internal sub rate.
Yeah, we haven't like really hammered that out yet, like what the internal sub rate is,
Okay.
so.
So if we go back
Or
a few
agreed on
meetings,
anything with that.
we were under the impression that was the teacher's daily rate, that number converted into an hourly rate. And it sounded like in our previous meetings, if we go back to the recording, everyone was saying that, yes, that was the same thing. But then it seemed to have maybe got a little bit convoluted over the course of that time.
There was a separate meeting where a discrepancy was discovered in sub pay within our district, where it was being paid off the previous negotiated agreement, not our current one. So then Rachel and I met with the cabinet, I guess the district office cabinet, and at that time in that meeting, they said they made a mistake, that the sub rate, the internal sub rate is not our daily rate. It is paid off our base salary. So we still have not agreed on anything of what the definition of that was, because our last conversation here at this table was, it was our daily base rate. But that is not currently how it is being figured, so that was a mistake that was talked about at a different meeting. So yes, we haven't finite tuned that one.
Just one.
Yeah. So I guess on our official position, which hasn't really changed a whole lot, is we still think G is important, leave it in. The piece at the bottom of the page that applies to classroom teachers, that little clause. That doesn't, we still don't agree with that either.
Let me see if let me follow. With respect to G, the multi-grade classroom provision. Are there any circumstances under which that applies right now that you're aware of?
Is there?
No, not that we are aware of.
Okay,
But
I think
are
our
there
kind of-
situations in which it could apply down the road?
but it would require somewhat of a change in the structure of classrooms.
Is it hurting anything or anyone by leaving it in?
I'm just trying to see, are there any applications of it right now? I mean, respectfully, I mean, that point can go both ways about if it's hurting anything leaving in or if it should be addressed at that point. I just wanted to see if there's anything right now, and it doesn't sound like there is.
There is not, but I think what we've talked about is with not being able to hire teachers. And I know that we did talk about it this summer, at a leadership meeting, that what would happen if we moved a few kids around here, if they were able to and willing to move to a different school, and that would leave to a multi-grade room at another school, so then that would save a teaching position. We get the numbers down a little bit there and move some around. So I mean, in the past year, we have talked about it as a creative solution in the elementary when we are short-staffed. I mean, we hired a long-term sub 2 days before school started at Wilkinson this year. I mean, anything was on the table. So what are we gonna do to get somebody in the classrooms? And so I think, like, we feel like that is still a possibility that it could be used as a solution if needed to. So that's our passion behind it, why we would like to keep it in there.
Understood.
To circle back briefly on one of Seth's questions as relate, is this a package deal? Meaning is the withdrawn proposals contingent upon the salary
No,
proposal being accepted, or
no,
those?
we chucked those, like, similar to what we tried to do last week, and then what we're trying to do this week, we're clearing the board. We've gone a few weeks now and haven't seemed to make any progress on those things, so let's get them out of there. I think the line was, last week was like, we've got $2.5 million of proposals here, we can't, conceivably look at this without looking at salary and then these, so we're gonna clear the board and get right down to brass tacks.
Thank you.
So. Want to make sure too that I'm on the right page on 6 and 7. So in the information, the packet that's been provided here, we have a separate 6 and 7. Is that your proposal or is the combined 6 and 7 that we?
What you have with the combined 6 and 7, what's in the packet?
That was our original.
Right.
We meant to replace it with boxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 6 and 7 that we should be looking at when we're considering this was the one that we received on
Yeah.
April 22nd, 2025 at 6:28 p.m.
Yep,
Yeah.
you guys need copies of that?
No, got it.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Okay.
That was our attempt to merge both 6 and 7. again, we look at it as a material term for contract language. Still feel strongly about it.
Well, and we're looking at your number, the way we've written number 5 too, not the one that we have in here, the original. So we're
Yeah.
just clarifying that.
I don't know if we wanna, go into back and forth on those proposals yet, or if we just kind of want to stick to salary, but we did have some questions with, the MOU board proposal number 5.
Maybe just, visually hear the question.
Sure, and Cindy, be sure to hop in on this. The way we saw it with the intent was with the, flexible summer PD was we wanted to try and make at least 1 or 2 available days at the start of the school year. We noticed that in the, dates that were, entered into the MOU, it was January 19th and April 6th, so the intent was to try and get a day or 2 at the beginning of the school year in there, and we didn't see that.
We'll look at that.
Thank
Any other? Or is that the only question?
I think that was the only one.
Anybody from our committee have any questions or? Well, thank you for this proposal. We're gonna go office, take a look at it, and we'll get you a message or let you know. Ready to reconvene? All right, sounds good. Okay.
Can I just add something real quick? If we're gonna pull those dates back so that teachers would have a date, have a free day in their classrooms, we would have to pull back the dates when things would be due to admin so that they would be able to approve it beforehand, because currently those dates are till August 15th. And technically, school would have already been started, so that date would have to be like August 1st. Admin's already in the building by that time, they would have a couple weeks to be able to approve it. And let staff know if they would have that day in the classroom during that PD time. So those dates would have to be adjusted also.
Go ahead and turn the recorder on. It is 6:19.
It's like, yeah. 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 You know, Friday cares. That's right. Yeah.
All right, we're back, 7:07. Just got back from caucus, waiting to hear back from the board.
All right. Thank you very much for the proposal you provided a little bit ago. We had an opportunity to look through and take an assessment of where we're at on a variety of different things. Got a response for you here, I think, actually eat up is tentative agreement on all items. I think we might be there. At least on how we see it. So let's take a look at it, walk through it. I'm just gonna probably walk down, you know, we've got tentative agreements on a whole variety of different things. I'm just gonna walk down with some of the.
Yep.
So we can cross reference it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can just
Okay, I'm
get
ready.
out. Okay. We have proposal number one, that was, you know, proposing a 2-year agreement and changing the for notice to negotiate from January, you know, January 20th, March 1st piece. We have tentative agreement on that. We have proposal number two, which is similar to one that the board had as well, related to the family sick bank that we have a tentative agreement on. We have proposal number three, seeking to remove the goal language that was withdrawn. We have proposal number four related to extra duty pay schedule that has been kind of ironed out already, so that is a tentative agreement. We have proposal number five, related to the in-house, or, you know, the professional development days. Couple points on that. With respect to right now, you know, moving forward, a lot of the dates and things are kind of locked in to take it kind of based on that. But we would absolutely entertain, you know, discussion, for the next year going on for like the, you know, as it goes around to, you know, see if there were some additional dates or whatnot that would work, you know, as Mrs. Glavin had kind of indicated there.
So is the intent then to get the MOU out this year with the intention of it going to be enrolled into year two? So we could.
Yeah, so we
those
can
dates.
go forward right away with it.
Yeah.
A lot of the August dates based off of the current schedule, that's kind of locked in our required type stuff,
Okay,
bar training, things like
Sure.
that, so. We want to get this implemented for you guys starting this year, but based off of the schedule, it's already kind of locked in.
okay.
August doesn't look like it's probably possible, so those 2 dates that we've proposed are the 2 that would be available, but certainly the second year. Try and work it into where there'd be an August date available.
And we appreciate you coming forward with that proposal. That was, appreciated. You had a combined proposal 6 and 7. We've rejected this one. However, as we discussed before, you know, the board can, you know, we pledged that, you know, when faced with the need to reassign a returning educator, the district is absolutely going to confer with the educator to discuss the reassignment. I mean, the goal is to try and reach some form of consensus on, you know, if there are some different alternatives and all of that. We have proposals 7 through 12, have been withdrawn. 7 through 13. We have proposal 14, which would be a financial proposal that you brought forth, about an hour ago. The board committee accepts that in whole. Do you have proposed for accepting your financial proposal? With respect to board proposals, starting out with board proposal number 1, this was kind of a housekeeping language change. We have a tentative agreement on that. Board proposal number, do you want me to stop this one?
Or, no, we're good.
Okay.
Okay,
Just roll through the
Oh, my list.
board proposals.
Yep, got it. I'm on it.
Okay. Board proposal number 2, you know, this was just changing the date on which insurance coverage commenced. It was not a change to how anything is being done. It's more so updating the contract to what it wasn't happening, that was kind of a. Proposal number 3 was just increasing the coverage amounts for the term life policy. Actually, we're looking at dismemberment policy to match the current practice. That's tentative agreement on that. We got a tentative agreement on number 4, modifying some, or getting rid of some of the legacy language and then modifying that sick leave piece as we've discussed with your proposal. Number 5, this was similar to your proposal number 2 regarding the sick leave bank. We can about that. Number 6, back to weather-related or emergency leave. We have a tentative agreement on that based on your proposed language. 7, this was the board proposal requiring that requests for unpaid leave would be brought to the board and approved by the board. We previously withdrawn that. That was off the table. Board proposal number 8, that was the provision talking about, what happens if an educator allows the license to lapse. We've already got a tentative agreement on the language. Board proposal number 9 related to kind of legacy language from the merger of District 1 and 8, and a tentative agreement on that. Board proposal number 10, I have an updated version at the very back. I think it would be helpful if we go ahead and take a look at the red line on that. The first change in proposed language is what we had been previously discussing before about schedule being based off of the building bill schedule and if there's emergency happening during the duty-free lunch. We already had discussions on that. Moving down to B, this was related to the discussion we just had just a little bit ago about how is that being paid. We've backed off our change on that and keeping it for what it says, it's prorated based off the daily base salary rate. And then just for what we thought maybe clarity points, just stating, for example, 24 to 25 will be based off that 48,000 with that daily base, or excuse me, what that base rate is. Moving on, we still have the change in there that we both agreed to on the power up, power down piece. Moving on to bottom of page 4, top of page 5. This was kind of the same change with respect to that base rate. We did, as we've discussed, remove the half-day increment part that we previously discussed. Subsecretary, that still stuck, and we backed off on our request to, have that clarification language at the very back. Kind of make a little bit of a note on that. If you flip back to the schedule that we're going through, I should say too, we're agreeing to leave the section G, the multi-grade classroom, compensation clause. There aren't any circumstances under which now it applies, but we hear your point. There's, you never know, possibility in the future. And so we've left that. And part of our rationale for not seeking the clarification at the very bottom, with the reference to the century code, was the fact that, we thought it provided some clarity, but the reality is the agreement already defines what student contact time is. So I think we're good there. Board proposal number 11, that was previously withdrawn. Proposal number 12 related to the 2-year agreement. That was tentative agreement. The next 2 provisions are that the Williston Education Association Negotiating Committee unanimously endorses this and will encourage ratification. And the corollary to that, the Board Negotiating Committee also endorses this and will actively encourage ratification. And you'll see at the very bottom, ratification incentive. This relates back to your voice and choice proposal. We previously had some discussions on, if somebody gets reassigned, it does cause some disruption. If you're a returning teacher, it causes some disruptions, and WIA committee, you had previously proposed adding a $500 stipend for classroom materials if you're one of those returning teachers that ends up being reassigned, and we're in agreement with that if this is ratified. And we're also in agreement with adding that to the negotiated agreement. That's not just a MOU or whatnot. Yeah, we heard your point on that, and we get it. So with respect to your voice and choice from 6 and 7, the reality is we're definitely in agreement with the increased communication and having some discussions, meeting and confer to talk about still those unfortunate circumstances do come up. And if you are one of those returning educators who is impacted by this, we agree with the $500 stipend for reading for classroom material. I know I talk fast sometimes, so questions?
Will there be like specific language regarding the $500, or it'll say like the dates, or is it just like what, if anybody's reassigned without wanting to be, then they get the 500, or if anybody's just reassigned
Well, I mean,
after contracts are signed?
there'll be a little bit more language, kind of similar to what, you would propose earlier, where a voluntary reassignment's not something where we're, looking to do that. But if it's, someone's being, fortunately, coming to you and saying, Mrs. Mo, I'm sorry, after our discussion, there's not another option. We understand the rationale behind why it was asked.
But it could be anytime, it could be anytime during the year. It could be in the spring. An admin comes to me and says, hey, we need to reassign you. And I'm like, I really don't want to go to kindergarten, but I get reassigned anyways. Or it could be at the beginning of the school year, things have changed and I get reassigned, I could still get that $500.
Just to clarify, are you talking about temporary?
No, I'm talking about that.
Pack it up,
Yeah.
move and all of that? Yeah, that would be our intent.
Okay.
Yep.
The other thing I want to ask is, one of the things we commented about was making sure that the district was going to move a teacher instead of a teacher being the person who's moving their classroom because they're being transferred without wanting to be. We've had cases where teachers have moved and then their understanding was the district was going to move their stuff. And then a couple days before school starting, they're paying somebody $200 to move their stuff. Can we have language that there's some sort of commitment if a person's being transferred, that the district is going to assure that their stuff is going to be moved?
This is a question that I should know the answer to, but I don't. But
Okay,
are you moving any furniture or are you moving any?
have you seen a classroom?
I'm just trying to, how much is being moved and
Depends on the size of the classroom and depends on the classroom. If you came to my classroom, there's a crap load of stuff you'd be moving.
Would you be moving all of that stuff if you were a 5th grade teacher being moved to 1st grade, since it's not necessarily gonna correlate to that classroom?
Probably, yes.
Teachers approved quite a few
I'd have
things
So if you-
over the years, a lot of personal things along with.
Yep, I'd have
Educational
bookshelves,
materials.
I would have chairs, I would, most of the tables I have are adjustable, so I'd probably be moving tables, maybe not move the chairs and stuff. I just think it's an important thing for teachers. Last year I played back and forth between classrooms and I spent that time in October moving classrooms.
if the WIA committee is okay with it, the superintendent kind of raised his hand there and maybe had a comment if you're okay with weighing in.
I mean, if you ask, we have 12 maintenance people, I'd have no problem having maintenance help. That's not an issue. You ask and I can help.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
And then how can, yes, I guess the ratification incentive, can we get that in writing? Or where would that go within the negotiated agreement? How would we get that in there? To solidify that?
I can, I can look and see exactly where I hadn't, identified a specific spot. I don't,
Right.
we're flexible on where it goes, but I mean, we're.
Sure. You bet. I just, yeah, as long as we get it in there.
Yeah, no, it would go in the agreement. We're not, this isn't, so I mean, if it goes in the agreement, then it's, then it continues on. So this isn't, it's provided that you ratify it, without voting it down. If you vote it down, then we're not, in agreement with that. But if you ratify that, ratify the agreement, that clause will go in there.
Okay, then can we hop over, if you don't mind, to the in-house substitute compensation, so the daily base salary rate? I know a few weeks ago, we all were shaking our heads in agreement that that was the teacher's number, and I thought that's what we were all saying, the same thing, but it's saying something different now.
I think, just to be candid, I think we were maybe describing it wrong. My understanding is, I mean, looking at the contract and based on how it operates, it's based on, the base rate. Mrs. Miller, conversation or the points that you brought up a little bit ago, I think that occurred after we last met, is that right?
Yeah, it was at a meeting about sub pay, not related to what we were talking about, but that's when we were discussing it.
That answer your question?
It does, okay. Okay, give us a couple minutes, we'll head back, we'll look this over and then, yeah, we'll do this.
All right, maybe 7:24 on before.
Yeah.
All right, 7:37, we're back on.
All right, we are back at it. We had time to look through everything. We have a couple of quick questions. One, would the board be willing to look at January 2nd as a possible date under we have proposal number 5? So as we're coming back from break, to have that day a part of a flexible PD.
Question on that, Jeff.
Yep.
In addition to the 2 proposed or in exchange for one?
Exchanging it for like January 19th. The thought is because January 2nd would give teachers the opportunity to be able to put grades in instead of doing PD, instead of having to worry about doing that over Christmas. It would give them a break for mental health, be able to spend time with family instead of being worried about doing it over Christmas or trying to get it done while others leave for Christmas. They could come back instead of doing PD that day, they could be in their classrooms, getting grades done and being ready to start the new year.
Okay. And then, I don't think this will be a hurdle for us, but, once we have the ratification incentive, that piece in writing, that way we take that back to our assembly, but hey, it is in writing, here it is.
In other words, before you go back to have your meeting, you want to see the language.
Correct.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that.
We don't want to go back to our ratification to our assembly and tell them, they told us that this is gonna happen, we don't have anything in writing.
Yes.
So if we can get to that, I'd say that we'd all be happy to shake hands, kiss babies and call it a good thing.
Okay.
Call it a good deal.
Just those 2 pieces?
Those are the only 2 pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go find some babies because we got the head nod and January 2nd is something we can work with.
Okay.
So, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, very good.
Can you walk us through, we have 5 days, so that would be next Tuesday, we have to have an answer to by ratification, is that correct? Or kind of lay it out so we can all have the dates in mind?
I have to double check on that.
Okay.
I recall, I don't want to misspeak on that because there have been some changes in the timelines and all that, just like we saw with the March 1st date. Assuming that is correct, it is 5 days.
We're under the impression of 5.
Yeah. What would your plan be for holding a meeting? Let's assume that's what it is.
ASAP. Yeah,
Hopefully by the end of the week. Okay.
Yeah.
I will make it a point then, tomorrow that we have language like, and I'll get it to the district and or with it or whatnot, so that you have it well in advance of,
And then we'll have a red line copy too.
the red line. Yeah.
it says, once all proposals have a tentative agreement, both parties have 5 business days to ratify the agreement. So
Okay.
next Tuesday, we'd have to give you the answer, so. would
Yeah, I
we
would say
plan-
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, and Tuesday would be the 5th day.
So then the plan would be to meet again next Tuesday, like on the schedule for, to come back together if, like, we'll try to
Well,
have
we could-
ratification
We
done
could,
before
depending
then.
on when
right?
we get the red line copy, Thursday or Monday, somewhere in there. And then hold our vote and then hopefully sign this thing and
Yeah,
Done
so,
Tuesday.
so what we would do is, this is a tentative agreement here, we would sign this tonight. And, I don't know if. I don't know if we would need a meeting next week.
Okay,
Mr. Renner would sign on behalf of
Yeah.
the board, and then
Okay.
usually the lead negotiator on behalf of the union would sign, but
okay,
not necessarily at a meeting here.
okay.
I think I have a clean copy of this.
that was pretty beat up.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, we did get the thumbs up on January 2nd.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we can make that change. Good.
I think I could say on behalf of the board committee and board, we very much appreciate the efforts which are put into these negotiations and identifying, where the real important pieces are. We appreciate the path that you brought to, help us understand some of these proposals from your perspective, and your colleagues should be thankful for all the hard work that you've put in, and we appreciate your time.
Likewise.
We thank you for the teacher appreciation gift.
There you go. So it's a good week to sign a TA on this and get it done. Teacher appreciation week. And we thank the teachers for being here tonight with us. So thank you. With that being said,
Let's shake some hands.
let's shake some hands and.
I need some babies, where are the babies? Anybody?
Yeah, I do.